Here we're going to look at how you compare two bits of different information by plotting a histogram. And this means, in this case, we're going to have to bring in something called subplots. So when we're plotting two line graphs with each other, we could just put all that information into one and it plotted two line graphs without a problem. In this case, we're going to need to do subplots. So I'm going to set up a new figure, which is a graph, and it's plt.subplots. So I'm using the function in plot called subplots, and that allows me to plot two graphs at the same time. So graph.hist, and then my data goes into a list, and let's go with length 1 and length 2. Return on there, and that means I can't spell length, I guess. Let's scroll back up. Yep. There we go. That's what it should look like. So we have these two histograms showing the bins that they've been put into, one in blue, one in orange. So we can specify the colour of these. So the same if you were just plotting one histogram and wanted to specify the colour, you would say colour equals green. We have two this time, so we just need to put those into a list exactly the same as we did with data. Let's go with green and red, square brackets close, and execute that. So that picks the colour, which is great if you can see the code and you know that length 1 is green and length 2 is red. Pretty useless if you're just looking at the graph. So we need a key. We need that label put in. So we pop our label in here. Again, it's in a list, and we're going to call it 1 and 2. So that puts the information of what the label title is with this, but we haven't asked it to print out a legend or a key. So we need to do that before it actually prints that for us. So plt.legend, open and close brackets, and return with that. And you can see now it's popped the legend where we want it to be. Lots of options where you put the legend. You can specify if you want here, so say the location is best, and it will pick the best location, which this happens to be top right. You can specify where that is, and that's again listed in the legend, plt.legend page of where you can put it. But to be honest, I've never had an issue with best. The only time that I've specified where it is, say with upper right, is when I've wanted everything to be in the upper right corner, or upper left, in the upper left corner, or middle, or lower left, lower right, etc. Best is the default and works pretty well. We do also need to put the labels on the X and Y axis here, otherwise 1 and 2 makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So plt.xlabel, and that is head length, that's in centimetres, and the Y label, plt.y label, is head, is frequency, sorry. Okay, so that's a much better looking graph. We know what the colours mean. We know what our axes mean. So you could give that to somebody and they would be able to understand what that information was telling them. But there are other ways of producing two histograms on the same graph. This shows you the information side by side. You can also stack it, so you're going to stack the two values in the same bin one on top of each other, and you do that with the flag hist type, so the type of histogram, and that's bar stacked. So that shows you everything that's in that bin with the red stacked on top of the green. You can also do a step, which is essentially one plotted in front of the other, which is kind of all right when it's in this format. I think it's relatively easy to read as well. You can also fill that in, and then you've lost the red data. So because the red data is printed first, then the green data is printed, you've lost all the fidelity of the red data under here. You have no idea what that information is, unless you take out the fill, and then you can actually see the profile of the red data. All you know is that it's equal or less than the green when it's there. But again, sometimes this might be the right choice of graph for you to do. So there's a few options there, and it always comes down to what is the best way to represent your data. Okay, when you're ready, move on to the next video to continue.